This is Gemara in Gittin Daf Yomi. Today's shir has been sponsored as a schos for Shlema from Moshe Yisrael ben Libo b'siyata d'shmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura with an extra fire and a vigor as we begin Baruch Hashem. A new Masechta should bring Moshe Yisrael ben Libo to and a complete Refuah Shalema. And as always, we begin the Masechta with a tefillah. The tefillah is that the same excitement, the same wanting to know the Masechta perfectly with Chazara that we have today when we begin a Daf Beis should accompany us through the entire Masechta b'siyata d'shmaya. Without further ado, we begin Perek Hamivi Get Daf Beis Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Hamivi Get me Medina Sayam. Someone who brings a get from Medina Sayam. Rashi right away points out that the entire Chutz La'aretz except from Bavel is called Medina Sayam. So someone is carrying a get. What does he need to do? Sarach Sheyomar, he needs to say when he gets to his destination. As we'll see, when he reaches Bezdin, he tells Bezdin, Befanai nechtav ubefanai nechtam. This document, this get, was written and signed in front of me. Rashi right away points out, we're discussing a shliach, one who is bringing a get. This is a shliach that the Baal, the husband, made this person a shliach to bring this get. He is bringing the get, so when he shows up, he has to say, I witnessed the writing and the signing of this get. Part A of the Mishnah. And this really is going to be the basic idea that the whole Mishnah is built upon. The idea that when someone brings a get, he has to tell us the reason, tell us that he actually witnessed the writing and the signing of the get. Why he needs to say that is going to be the topic of discussion today, b'siyata d'shmaya, in a moment when we get to the Gemara. So says the Mishnah further, Rav Gamliel Loimer, continues Rav Gamliel, Af havevi min harekem umin hacheger. Even one who brings a get between rekem and cheger, Rashi says, bein kadesh, bein pered. What is the chiddush? We will see. Rav Eliezer Omer, afilu mikfar Ludin lelud. Even if you bring a get from the city of Ludin to Lud, Rashi points out Ludim is in Chutz La'aretz and Lud is on the border, but in Eretz Yisrael. So close by, right outside Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, you bring a get. The shliach, the messenger carrying this document from the husband to his wife, has to say it was written and signed in front of me. Comes on the chacham v'chachamim oimrim, einoi tzarich sheyoymar v'ani nechtam v'ani nechtam. Say the chachamim, you do not need to say v'ani nechtam. Ella, in what case? Ha-mevi Medina Sayam. Only in a case you're bringing from Medina Sayam. Ve'ha-moilech, and a case that you're bringing it from Eretz Yisrael to Medina Sayam. Now, in what way the Chachamim just added on to the Tanakama, as the Tanakama already taught us? Ha-mevi gam Medina Sayam. And the Chachamim say, you have to say it when you're mevi Medina Sayam. The Gemara is going to discuss. So the Chachamim seemingly agreeing with the Tanakama that when you bring a get from overseas, you have to say, B'fanei nechtam, v'ha'mevi memedina lemedina. And as well, when one brings a get from one Medina to another Medina, b'medina sayam, within Medina sayam, within Chutz La'aretz, as well, say the Chachamim sachshem fanei nechtam. Rashba adds on another chiddush. Even if you're within one city, but within this one city, there are two generals, two jurisdictions, two governments that are makbin on each other, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, these two neighboring towns, we'll call them, within one larger city. If you bring it from point A to point B, you have to as well say, Fanei nechtam. Rav Yehuda Omer, now Rav Yehuda comes along in part B of the Mishnah and gives us the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. Rav Yehuda Omer Rekem leMizrach, from Rekem eastward, v'Rekem keMizrach. And Rekem itself is considered like the east, meaning like Chutz La'aretz and not Eretz Yisrael. Me Ashkelon nedarim, v'Ashkelon lekedarim. Ashkelon southward, and Ashkelon itself is part of Chutz La'aretz. Me Arkoin litzafoin, v'Arkoin kitzafoin. And everyone who knows directions knows, wait, these were only three directions. What about the fourth directions? What about the Ma'ariv, the west of Eretz Yisrael? Says Rashi, in that area you do not need a boundary. Why? Because the Yam HaGadol is the western boundary of Eretz Yisrael. Continues the Mishnah, Rameir Omer, he argues on a fine nuance of Rav Yehuda and says, Rameir, Akoy is Eretz Yisrael Gittin. Not like Rav Yehuda said that Akoy itself has the din of Chutz La'aretz, but rather it says Rameir, Akoy is like Eretz Yisrael. And finally, the Mishnah concludes, Hamevi get Eretz Yisrael. Till now, you're bringing a get from Medina Sayyam, from one province to the next, from two cities within one area. But now, what if you bring it within Eretz Yisrael? Says the Mishnah, you do not need to say that. If there are those who are contesting the validity of the get, Rashi points out, it can be the husband saying that this get is forged. I never divorced my wife. What do you do? Says the Mishnah, you certify and you verify the validity of the get with the signatures. As Rashi says, the Eidim testify that this is that which they signed, or other Eidim who recognize the signatures of these Eidim. So in the Mishnah, we have one overarching din, which is the din of B'fanei Nechtav, B'fanei Nechtam. That when a shliach, a husband gives his wife, husband could either give his wife a get, hand her the document and say, you are divorced. Or, as we know, shluchai shel adam kamaisai, one is able to utilize a shliach, a messenger. So our parak is discussing when a husband gives over the document, the get, to his messenger to bring to his wife. What does the messenger have to say? The Mishnah says he must say it was written and signed in front of me. And the obvious kasha in which we begin right now is, my taima. What is the reason that the husband... what is the reason that the shliach has to say Farei Nechtam? So we have the classical machlaikas, Rabba and Rava. As we turn over to Beis and Beis, Rabba Omar says, Rabba, you know I have to say Farei Nechtam, U'Farei Nechtam, Lefi she'ein bekiyim lishma. Because they are not bekiyim in lishma. So there's a bit unspoken from the words of Rabba, and let's allow the wonderful Rebbe that Rashi is to fill us in on those details. So first of all, Rashi says, who is not Bekiyim in the Shema are those in Chutz La'aretz. So when he brings a get from Chutz La'aretz, from outside of Eretz Yisrael, we have to be worrying that, wait, was this get written Lishma? Rashi points out, how do we know a get has to be written Lishma? Because of Allah, to our Sefer Krisos, and law, we Drarshin means has to be written Lishma, which means has to be written for the sake of this man and this woman. So therefore, when one brings a get, he has to say Farei Nechtav U'Farei Nechtam. 1 second. What does that have to do with Lishma? He just said, I saw that the get was written and I saw the get was signed. How do we know that it was done Lishma? So Rashi on the last wide line, and this is Shitas Rashi, which is a contested point in the Rishainim, but Rashi learns, you know why? It's a trigger. Once he says, I witnessed the signing and the writing of the get, then Memelo, we in Bezdin, will ask him, Im Nichtav Lishma, was the get indeed written Lishma? V'hu Amar in, and he's going to respond, yes, it was written Lishma. So according to Rabba, the impetus of Farei Nechtam is to ensure that the get was written Lishma. How does saying Farei Nechtam ensure that the get was written Lishma? Rashi learns and ensures that by, once he says that he watched the writing and the signing of the get, we in Bezdin will thereby ask him, was it Lishma? And he will respond, yes. Rava argues on the top line of Beis and Beis, and Rava says that is not the reason you have to say Farei Nechtav U'Farei Nechtam, that we witnessed the signing and the writing of the get. Rather, the reason is says Rava, you know what the reason is? Because witnesses are not around to be Mekayim to certify the get. As Rashi continues speaking out on the third narrow line, that from Chutz La'aretz, from outside of Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, they're not shayaros. They're not caravans that bring people back and forth readily. So we're standing here in Eretz Yisrael, this shliach, this messenger, is trying to give the get to this woman. And what happens if the husband comes and says, what, get? Wife, what are you doing? I didn't write this get. How are we going to prove that indeed the husband wrote this get? You need Eidim. The problem is there are no Eidim. Why there are no Eidim? Because travel between Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael is not common. So because of that reason, we require the shliach to say he knows that the husband had this get written. He watched the entire process. Continues the Gemara. My beinayu. What is the practical difference between these two answers? Says the Gemara. Beinayu. You know what the difference is? Das inu beitrei. In a case where two edim brought the shtar. What does two edim bring the shtar? When two edim bring the shtar, according to Rabbah, does that do anything for us? No. Because we still do not know what's the original writing and signing of the get lishma. So they still have to say nechtam. Why? So that we ask them and they certify it was lishma. But according to Rava, that the whole reason to say that you watch the writing and signing of the get was so that we know that indeed these are the edim and it is a kosher shtar. Once there are two edim, we don't need that because they themselves could verify the document. Answer number one. So if two people bring the get according to Rabba, Lishma, you still have to say Farei Nechtam. According to Rava, you do not. Inami, answer number two, Lemedina, Be'eretz Yisrael. If you're bringing the get from one Medina to the next within Eretz Yisrael. So now again, according to Rabba, it's a din and Lishma. So according to Rabba, do they know Lishma and Eretz Yisrael? The answer is yes, so you would not have to say Farei Nechtam. According to Rava, as Rashi points out, we're assuming one Medina to the next in Eretz Yisrael, they as well do not travel between the two. And therefore we still have to be worried that maybe the husband will ask and question the validity of the get. Therefore you still have to say Farei Nechtam according to Rava. Inami nafkamina, practical difference number three, ba'oisa medina b'medinas hayom. Within one medina in medinas hayom, you're within one medina, and therefore do you have to be worried about lishma? Answer is yes, you're in medinas hayom. But do you have to be worried about kiyum? The answer is no, you would not have to be worried about kiyum. Why would you not be worried about kiyum? Because you're within one city, and therefore we assume that the people from that town will be readily available to certify the get. So now, after understanding the depth of the machlekes, the two reasons, the practical cases, the three practical cases in which Rabba and Rava would argue, says the Gemara, 5 lines down, Ule Rabba, according to Rabba, that says again, why are you saying Farei Nechtav? Because they don't know that it has to be Lishma and Chutz La'aretz. So he says Farei Nechtav, so that we ask him, was it Lishma? And he says, yes. Ask the Gemara Li Bayitrei. So why does it suffice to have one aid bring the get and one messenger say that he witnessed the signing and writing the get? If we want to ensure that the get was actually in Lishma, you should need 2 Eidim. Why 2? Says the Gemara, of course 2. All Eidos in the Torah you need 2. So why would it be enough with 1 Eid? Answers the Gemara, 1 second. There's one time where it's enough with 1 Eid. Says the Gemara, Eid Echa Neman B'Yisurin. We think right now that we're dealing with Isurin, we're dealing with something being Aser, so 1 Eid should have a credibility. This responds the Gemara, the classical response, B'Yisurin is when when we have a piece of meat, we have a piece of something in front of us and we don't know is it kosher or not. Is it chelev, the forbidden fats, or the shuman, the permissible fats? In such a scenario, in which there is no presumption, there's no reason to assume that it's actually usher one more than the next, and we have a suffix hashaka, we have a weighted doubt in front of us. Is this kosher or not? Now, Eid Echanam B'Yisurin says, we believe him to say which one is kosher. However, in our case, it is Ischazik Isura. Why is it Ischazik Isura? Because she was a married woman, and therefore there's an Isser that she has an Ishes Ish, she's married to her husband, the Ishes Ish. Therefore, would 1 Eid work? No, says the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom of Beis and Beis. Have a Davar Shebe'erva in such a scenario. V'ein Davar Shebe'erva Pachais Mishnayim. And therefore, you need to have 2. So says the Gemara, 1 second. I don't understand. We're back to square one. What is the reason that 1 Eid is enough to say Farei Nechtam? According to Rabbah, that the whole purpose is the impetus, the trigger to ask, was it Lishma? What does one person do? We should need 2. Answers the Gemara, you know what it does. Roiv B'Kiyim. Says the Gemara, really? The majority of people, even in Chutz La'aretz, know the din of Lishma. Va'afilu l'Rav Meir, and the Gemara explains further. And even according to Rav Meir, who's Rav Meir that holds the chayish l'miuta? Rav Meir is the opinion that says that we are suspectful for the miut, that it's not enough to have roiv, that even in such a scenario we have to worry about the minority. So in our case, why are we worried about the minority that don't know about lishma? Says the Gemara, because who writes the get? The Sofer. Stam Safri Dedaini Migmar Gemiri. A Stam Sofer is Naaman, does know the din of Lishma. So the Gemara now changes the whole thing according to Rabbah. That why according to Rabbah is 1/8 enough? Because really there's no concern at all. What was all problem according to Rabbah? Lishma, says the Gemara, Lishma. Everyone knows about the din of Lishma. And even if you're worried about the 1% that doesn't, don't be worried. Why not? Because the Sefer that wrote the get knows about Lishma. So why do you have to say this at all according to Rabbah? Explains the Gemara, the last line, V'Rabbanan u'da'atzrich. And the whole reason that we required b'fanei nechtam to certify the Lishma aspect is a din d'Rabbanan. And as the Banam Rashi explains, why? Because mid-Rabbanan we're going to be worried that maybe he found a prefab get, maybe he found a get that was already written, and therefore it was not written for him, it was not written Lishma. And we're worried he's going to take that get and try to divorce his wife. So midrabanan, we have such a concern. And because it's only a concern midrabanan, as we turn over to Gimel Amid Aleph for a moment or two, v'hacha mishom iguna ikilu barabanan. Because the whole concern is a midrabanan, the Rabbanan have the power and the dispensation to say that it's only a concern midrabanan in order to ensure that people could get remarried, will believe even one aid, even just the shliach. Says the Gemara, hi kulu. You're telling me it's a kula to believe one aid, to believe this one shliach that is fanei nechtam, chumro. I said a chumra. Because if you would have required 2 aidim to bring the get and say it was written inside in front of them, it was lishma. The husband would not be able to say anything, because if after these 2 Eidim said they witnessed the signing and the writing of the get, the husband says, no, it's forged, we wouldn't believe the husband. But now that you're believing even one aid, the shliach, so ask the Gemara Shkayach, you think you're doing us a favor, you're creating a kula? Mishamiguna, but wait, it could result in a chumrah. And with this we conclude, answers the Gemara, Kivan de Amar Mar. Since we learned a din that we're going to get to soon enough on Daf Yomi, that when the shliach brings his get, in front of how many people does he have to give the get? B'fnei kama noisna Allah, in front of how many people does the shliach give the get to this woman? Rav Yechon, Rav Chanina, Chanam, Rav Geiz, Chanam, Rav Gimel. One says you need to have 2 dayan, and one says you need to have 3. So because the shliach knows, wait, I'm about to give this get on behalf of the husband, and there's going to be a bezdin watching me. Meikara, meidakdaik, the shliach is very precise, and he knows and he makes sure that they're not going to be able to be ma'arer, they're not going to be able to call into question anything he does. Vaday dok b'milsei shaper, he'll be very, very precise, and that's the reason why it is indeed a kula. So at the end of the day, according to Rabbah, the reason why you have to say fanei nechtav is because of a din of lishma. A din of lishma, why you should need 2? Because the whole requirement is because of a din d'Rabbanan that maybe he found a prefab get. For that, Misha Migula Ikenu Barabana. Why is it a kula? Because once he gives it in front of 2 or 3 people, he'll be dark, he'll be precise, and he won't come to have any error on that get. We'll pick it up as we'll discuss Rava further in the next year.